Tonight, several developing stories as we come on the air. There is major news coming in right now involving the race for a vaccine and the daring rescues underway at this hour. At least 25 major fires across California tonight. 9 states with fires burning now, more than a dozen people still trapped. A wife waiting for her husband and boys to be rescued. National Guard and Navy pilots airlifting more than 160 people to safety. Choppers tonight flying through blinding smoke and flames. Families driving to escape. Fire lines on both sides of the road. Thousands of homes at risk as we go into the night. An entire town nearly burned to the ground. Also tonight, that breaking news involving the race for a vaccine. One of the frontrunners reportedly forced to put human trials on hold tonight. Reports a participant might have suffered an adverse reaction. What we know so far. And it all comes as 9 drug makers issue an historic joint statement tonight, pledging to, quote, stand with science before rushing out a vaccine amid any talk of political pressure. And what Dr. Anthony Fauci is saying about a vaccine and when. The coronavirus and schools tonight, the disturbing images of crowds on Labor Day and on college campuses, Indiana University, and the crowds on party boats nearby. About 100 college communities now reporting a surge in cases. 2 months until the presidential election, the race underway. President Trump facing new fallout tonight after that report claiming he called fallen American troops losers and suckers. The president responding to that report and what he has now said about his top military leaders. Tonight, the Army's top general now responding, and Joe Biden jumping in too. There was breaking news from Rochester, New York at this hour. The mayor speaking a short time ago. The major police shakeup after days of protests. The police chief and his entire command staff leaving their positions. The chilling investigation, the bodies of an American couple recovered from a well in Mexico. And the senior kicked off a flight, reportedly telling a flight attendant to put on her mask during the safety briefing, and what the airline is now saying tonight.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening, and it's great to be back with all of you at home after this Labor Day holiday. And we do have several major developments tonight as we come on the air. There is news involving the hunt for a vaccine and what could be a significant setback, what we've learned so far. But we're going to begin tonight with that scene unfolding right now, the daring rescues underway at this hour, the wildfires now in 9 states. In California tonight, 25 major fires right now. The Creek Fire alone near Fresno, trapping hundreds of campers and hikers. National Guard helicopters rescuing 160 people alone today. Tonight, though, many still trapped. A wife waiting for her husband and sons to be rescued. It is a dangerous operation underway in high winds and near zero visibility. Near San Bernardino tonight, the El Dorado fire threatening homes, forcing evacuations there. The Valley Fire near San Diego spreading quickly as well. Fire seen on both sides of the road. And in Washington state tonight, hurricane-force winds fueling the flames there, destroying most of the town of Malden. We have it all covered for you tonight, including the winds expected to pick up significantly as we head into the night. ABC's Matt Gutman leading us off.
Tonight, the Creek Fire exploding through central California, a massive rescue effort underway, but more than a dozen people still trapped by flames. Lisa Ebright desperately waiting for her husband and 2 sons.
I'm just anxious for them to come home and for me to see them step off. Then I can breathe.
National Guard and Navy choppers scooping up more than 160 people from that inferno today. Families now making emotional reunions.
You guys smell like so much.
Lorena Chacon telling our Zoreen Shah she's grateful her 2 sons are safe.
It was such an anxious wait, not knowing what was going to happen and when they were going to be here. So it's surreal just having them here in the flesh.
These rescue missions executed in high winds and near zero visibility, requiring night vision goggles. It's extremely dangerous for the military crews carrying out those dramatic operations. In all, they've pulled more than 200 from the fires over the weekend in Chinook and Black Hawk helicopters.
The smoke's been so thick that the pilots don't have a visual of the terrain to land safely or to identify the locations where the evacuees are.
This single fire now consuming over 143,000 acres, destroying homes, forcing thousands to evacuate.
We're in uncharted territory with the amount of evacuations and with the speed of the fire.
More than 24 major fires are burning through the state. Nearly 14,000 firefighters battling impossible conditions. The Dolan fire in Monterey County nearly doubling in size overnight, moving so quickly 14 firefighters were forced to deploy fire shelters. Now, these are only used when a firefighter's life is in immediate danger. Tonight, 3 taken to the hospital, one of them in critical condition. And it's not just California. Fires now burning in 9 western states. This fire in Oregon easily visible from 30,000 feet. And in Washington state, hurricane-force wind gusts help fuel the destruction there. People with only minutes to evacuate the town of Malden, south of Spokane.
It was surreal. It was like, you can't believe how fast. I still can't fathom how quickly it traveled.
Cars destroyed, homes burned to the foundation. The area tonight, a wasteland. David, we came up here so you can hear this. What sounds like a waterfall is actually wind howling through the trees here. It's going to act like nitroglycerin tonight, turbocharging all the fires that exist in the valley below. And we spoke to a battalion chief here. He says the fear is it's going to push those fires into the San Gabriel Valley, where tens of thousands of people live. We could see a lot of evacuations tonight. David.
Yeah, that sound certainly makes the point, Matt. Thank you. And as I mentioned at the top tonight, the winds are expected to be a real problem once again as we head into this evening. So let's get right to Chief Meteorologist Ginger Z. She's also on the ground in California for us tonight. And Ginger, what are you expecting in the hours ahead?
David, I've got another sound over me, one of more than a dozen helicopters in just the last hour hitting the hot spots here in the El Dorado fire, trying to get them out because they're about to meet up with Mother Nature's kerosene, the Santa Ana wind. You can see it right there on my map, that arid high-pressure system settling in over the Great Basin. It sends those offshore winds, and that makes for gusts 40 to even 55 miles per hour. When you take those through a mountain pass, you take a little smoldering ember and you make it a giant wall of flames. And that's what we are concerned with tonight. We also are concerned with those red flag warnings that go from Arizona to Washington state. Air quality alerts are up everywhere because even if you aren't right on top of the fire, you can't breathe, you can't see. The smoke and visibility impacting everyone here along the West Coast. David?
We're thinking about the millions in the West tonight. Ginger, our thanks to you as well. And of course, the other major story tonight involves the race for a vaccine. We learned just before we came on the air tonight that there could be a setback tonight in what had been one of the most promising studies from the University of Oxford. Their human trials reportedly temporarily on hold tonight after a reported serious reaction in one of their volunteers. It all comes as 9 drug companies pledged today in an historic joint statement that they will, quote, stand with science before issuing any vaccine, despite growing concern over any potential political pressure leading up to the election. Here's ABC's Steve Osunsami.
A possible setback this evening. The final stages of human trials at the University of Oxford are being put on hold because one of their volunteers reportedly suffered a suspected serious adverse reaction. A spokesman for the company developing the drug tells a medical news service that they're now hoping to minimize any potential impact of the trial timeline. The chief executives of 9 drug makers who are racing to produce a vaccine that prevents COVID-19 are promising the world tonight that safety is their, quote, top priority. In their rare statement together, they write that they won't ask for approval or even emergency use of any vaccine until demonstrating safety and efficacy through a phase 3 clinical study. We believe this pledge will help ensure public confidence in the rigorous scientific and regulatory process. For weeks now, the president keeps suggesting that a vaccine could be ready by Election Day.
So we're going to have a vaccine very soon, maybe even before a very special date. You know what date I'm talking about?
His critics say he's rushing things for political gain.
I will not take his word for it. He wants us to inject bleach. No, I will not take his word.
But even Joe Biden says it's good for everyone if the Trump administration can help produce a safe and effective vaccine that's readily available by November.
If I could get a vaccine tomorrow, I'd do it. If it cost me the election, I'd do it. We need a vaccine. We need it now.
The CEO of Pfizer says they'll know soon if the president's timeline is possible.
Our base case predicts that we will have an answer by the end of October.
The nation's top infectious disease doctor still doubts a vaccine will be ready by Election Day. He does think more than one will end up making it to market, but says the demand will be so high you likely won't get to choose.
I don't think you're going to be able to pick and choose like you would in a candy store.
We're now learning tonight of at least one trial location here in the U.S. that is no longer using that Oxford vaccine to inject into volunteers until we learn more about this adverse reaction. David?
All right, the ripple effect already here. Steve, our thanks to you again tonight. And as this country awaits a vaccine, the disturbing images this evening as children head back to school, as college students go back as well. And tonight, the toll in this country, more than 189,000 American lives lost. Authorities are urging young people to take this seriously, as authorities say we now enter the fall in a more difficult place than we entered the summer in. And word tonight that more than 500,000 children have now tested positive in the U.S. since this began. Here's Stephanie Ramos.
Tonight, Labor Day weekend sparking fresh fears of COVID outbreaks from Seattle to Sacramento. A missionary posting these images to support the faithful as many appeared to worship without masks and no social distancing. In Las Vegas, streets packed, many without masks. The country going into Labor Day weekend with twice the level of infection than Memorial Day.
In many ways, we're in much worse shape entering the fall than we were entering the summer. And of course, we know in the fall with schools and colleges opening, we're going to probably see a lot more cases ahead.
Colleges vowing to crack down after scenes like this boat party near Indiana University. The University of Rhode Island breaking up gatherings like this.
It was also pretty frustrating too, because it was like they all had their masks in their hand. It's really not hard to just put it on.
According to the New York Times, infections have recently spiked in about 100 college communities as students have returned to campus.
They don't tell us like how many cases are on your floor of your dorm or in your dorm in general. And I think that would help a lot, but I also think it might scare people.
At the University of Georgia, classes are in person, cases jumping to 800 in 1 week.
I think we shouldn't even have been on campus this semester because of the rise of cases.
The mayor of Athens saying the return of up to 25,000 students is one reason for the rise.
We've seen this dramatic spike, including in the last month, doubling the number of deaths we've had this year. So just as many deaths in the last month as we had in the prior 5 months combined.
New York University today announcing that all members of the NYU community are required to be COVID tested, not just at testing tents like the one behind me, but kits are now also available at dorms. David.
Stephanie Ramos tonight. Stephanie, thank you. And now to the race for the White House. 2 months to go after Labor Day, of course. We are now in the final stretch. The election just 8 weeks away, and tonight President Trump is facing new fallout over what he reportedly said about the military. What the president is now saying, and now the Army's top general weighing in, so is Joe Biden. Here's our chief White House correspondent, Jonathan Karl.
President Trump today hit the campaign trail and a state he must win.
It's my home state. It's called the state of Florida, and it's a great state.
With exactly 8 weeks until Election Day, the president is dealing with fallout from a report in The Atlantic, citing anonymous sources that he made disparaging comments about Americans killed at war. The article alleges the president refused to visit a World War I cemetery during a trip to France in 2018, saying, "Why should I go to that cemetery? It's filled with losers." The president did not make the planned visit via helicopter, citing bad weather, sending his chief of staff, John Kelly, to go by car instead.
When it comes to veterans, he's downright un-American. And I'm sorry if I'm getting close to losing my temper.
The Biden campaign has already seized on the article, making this video featuring veterans.
It's filled with losers. It's filled with heroes.
The White House has pointed to on-the-record statements from more than a dozen people who accompanied the president on his trip to Paris and say they didn't hear him make those comments.
Who would say a thing like that? Only an animal would say a thing like that. There's nobody that has more respect for not only our military, but for people that gave their lives in the military.
The article also says the president had been with John Kelly during a Memorial Day visit to Arlington National Cemetery and alleges that while standing by the gravesite of Kelly's son, who died in Afghanistan, the president said, "I don't get it. What was in it for them?" That comment has not been refuted by Kelly, who has said nothing on the record about the article. The president created more controversy yesterday by questioning the motivations and loyalty of America's military leadership.
It's one of the reasons the military, I'm not saying the military is in love with me, the soldiers are. The top people in the Pentagon probably aren't, because they want to do nothing but fight wars so that all of those wonderful companies that make the bombs and make the planes and make everything else stay happy.
The chief of staff of the Army took issue with that at a virtual event today.
I can assure the American people that the senior leaders would only recommend sending our troops to combat when it's required for national security and in the last resort.
That statement making immediate news today, but let's get right to John on something else, because there's also news tonight on the Postmaster General. The House Oversight Committee, John, now saying they'll investigate Louis DeJoy, a Trump donor, over alleged campaign finance violations.
Yeah, the Washington Post, David, reported that DeJoy pressured employees at the company that he owned until 4 years ago to make donations to Republican candidates and then reimburse those donations through bonuses. DeJoy's spokesperson is denying that he broke any campaign finance laws. The president was asked about this yesterday and said if the allegations are true, then DeJoy should lose his job. David?
All right, 2 months to go until the election. John will be with us every step of the way. Thanks, John. There's also developing news from Rochester, New York tonight. A major shakeup in the police department there after days of protests. The mayor speaking just a short time ago, the police chief and his entire command staff leaving their positions. ABC's Trevor Ault from Rochester.
Tonight, a week into intense protests rocking Rochester, the mayor with that bombshell announcement.
I do want to inform you that the entire Rochester Police Department command staff has announced their retirement.
Police Chief LaRon Singletary and at least 6 top members of the police department command leaving their positions, catching the entire city council off guard.
It was unexpected. I didn't know that it was going to happen.
Is there any type of blueprint about how to move forward?
There is not.
Put your hands behind your back. This as outrage mounts following the release of this disturbing body camera video showing Daniel Prude's deadly encounter with police back in March. Last week, Mayor Lovely Warren said Chief Singletary told her Prude died of an overdose, but later defended his actions, saying today the chief was not asked to resign.
His career and his integrity and his, has been challenged. He didn't in any way try to cover this up.
Late this afternoon, the chief releasing a statement saying, quote, "I will not sit idly by while outside entities attempt to destroy my character," adding, "The mischaracterization and the politicization of the actions that I took after being informed of Mr. Prude's death is not based on facts and is not what I stand for."
And David, tonight the mayor says Chief Singletary will remain in charge of the police department through the end of the month as the city scrambles to lay out its new path forward. David?
All right, Trevor Ault tonight. Trevor, thank you. And we should let everyone at home know that ABC News is launching Turning Point, a month-long series of reports examining the racial reckoning sweeping the nation and whether it will lead to lasting change, the effort in bridging the divide. Those reports every night on Nightline and across our news and platforms, and of course, right here on World News Tonight. When we come back this evening, the American couple found dead in Mexico, their bodies discovered in a well. Next tonight, here the airline responding after a senior was kicked off an Allegiant Air flight in Punta Gorda, Florida. The man reportedly telling the flight attendant to put her mask on while giving the safety briefing. The passenger was accused of being disruptive. The airline says they take off that mask briefly so passengers can hear. When we come back tonight, that chilling discovery, the American couple found at the bottom of a well. Now to that chilling investigation underway in Mexico tonight. Authorities now confirming the bodies of Ian Hershon and Kathy Harvey, an American couple on vacation from Southern California, found at the bottom of a well in western Mexico. They were reported missing last week. When we come back here, back to school, and that question asked every year, but how do you answer it this year? Finally tonight here, the children teaching us what it means to be America Strong. So many children going back to school, and that question, what did you do this summer? How did you cope this summer? And Cartier Carey and his answer, 11 years old, Hampton, Virginia, and he spent his summer at his lemonade stand, raising money to buy diapers and wipes, supplies for parents who have needed help during this pandemic.
Hi, David. My name is Cartier Carey. It's my first day.
It was his first day back today, his school online for now, but he's still hard at work on his own assignment, loading up that truck, more than 22,000 diapers so far. So many families touched. His mother sharing this video with us of another mother who was moved to tears, saying this boy's work reminded her of a time when she was in need too.
You are helping so many people. You have no idea. You see this truck? I didn't know I was at this truck.
Wow.
I lived in a church home, and coming from where I came from and now here, it's because of people like you. People gave me diapers, you know. You're an amazing young man, and you can go far. You start out. You should be so proud of him.
Cartier telling us today about that moment this summer he won't forget.
It was heart-touching. I almost cried myself when she gave me a hug and started crying. After that, that made me just want to keep doing it.
Tonight, Cartier back to school, but still on that mission.
Others can make a difference, just like I'm doing right now. They can save lives and be heroes. They're never too young.
We loved Cartier's message on his first day of school. I'm David Muir. Good night.